All right, let's dive into one of the great Norse tragedies. This is the story of Brynhild, a seriously powerful Valkyrie whose fate was sealed not just by one choice, but by this whole cascade of them. A chain of defiance, love, and betrayal that led to a downfall of, well, absolutely epic proportions.
And that really is the question that sits right at the heart of her story, isn't it? Was she this vengeful monster? Or was she a victim, just caught in a web of divine punishment, cursed magic, and promises that were broken left and right? You know, it's complicated. So let's unpack it. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we're going to walk through her story in 5 parts. We'll start with her big act of defiance, then the fated love that came next, the terrible deception that just tore it all apart, how the whole tragedy unraveled, and then finally, what this ancient story can maybe tell us.
So, our story kicks off with Brynhildr, right in her prime. I mean, she's a powerful Valkyrie, serving the Allfather, Odin himself. But it's right here, at the absolute height of her power, that she does something that the sagas call her original sin.
So, you might be wondering, what exactly is a Valkyrie? Well, the name literally means chooser of the slain. These were Odin's personal warrior maidens, and they held the power of life and death on the battlefield. I mean, these were divine, totally respected figures. So that's where Brynhild starts out. Powerful, immortal, and sworn to the top god.
Okay, now here's the moment where everything changes. Odin gives her a direct order: grant victory to an old king, Hjoldengunr. Simple enough, right? But Brynhild, she sees the courage of the younger king, Agnar, and she makes her own choice. She goes against the Allfather and strikes down the king Odin wanted to win. You could say it was an act of pity, maybe even a little bit of pride, but what it really was direct disobedience. And you just don't do that to Odin. His response was swift, and it was severe. He stripped her of her godhood, just like that. He sentenced her to a mortal life. And then he cast her into this enchanted, deep sleep, and surrounded her with a ring of fire that only the absolute bravest hero in the world could ever hope to cross.
So that punishment, it leads us to the next chapter of her life. It's a punishment for sure, but in a way, it's also a new beginning. Hope shows up in the form of a hero, but it's a hope that's already shadowed by a really dark omen. And that hero? Well, it was none other than Sigurd, the most famous dragon slayer in the entire Norse world. He was the one man who knew no fear, which meant he was the only one destined to break Odin's fiery curse.
And oh, what a scene it was. You have to picture this. Sigurd rides his horse, Grani, straight through the flames. He finds the sleeping Shield-Maiden, and he literally cuts the armor right off her body, waking her up to a mortal life. And in that moment, they fall completely, deeply in love, and swear these unbreakable oaths to be with each other forever. I mean, it feels like the perfect fairy tale ending, but it is so not.
So Sigurd gives Brynhildr a token of his love, this ring, Onvaranat. But listen, this is no ordinary gift. In Norse mythology, some objects are more than just objects. They're instruments of fate. They're like physical anchors for a curse. And this ring is one of them. It is fated, absolutely fated, to bring ruin and death to anyone who has it. And with that single act of love, Sigurd has just sealed their doom.
And yeah, this is where the story takes a seriously dark turn. The curse of that ring starts to work its magic, not through monsters or some big divine intervention, but through something much more insidious: human scheming and a whole web of lies. And it all starts with this: a simple potion of forgetfulness. It's given to Sigurd by a sorceress named Grimhild, and its effect is just devastatingly simple. It makes him completely forget everything. His oath, his love. He forgets Brynhildr ever even existed.
And this one single act kicks off a catastrophic chain reaction. First, with his memory totally wiped, Sigurd marries a princess named Gudrun. Then, he agrees to help her brother, Gunnar, win the famous Shield-Maiden in the Ring of Fire for himself. The problem is, Gunnar isn't brave enough to cross the flames. So what do? Using magic, Sigurd literally takes on Gunnar's appearance, he rides through the fire a second time, and he wins Brynhildr for another man. She, of course, agrees to marry this man she thinks is Gunnar, completely heartbroken that the hero she actually loved never came back for her.
And that brings us to the tragic climax. The truth is just buried under all these layers of magic and deceit. But as we know, the truth always finds a way out. And in this story, it's that cursed ring that's going to reveal everything.
The setting is a river. Brynhildr is arguing with Sigurd's new wife, Gudrun, about which of their husbands is the greater man. You know, a petty squabble. But then, in this moment of just cruel pride, Gudrun shows off the ring Anva ran out, a ring that she says her husband, Sigurd, gave her, the very same ring that Brynhildr's mysterious suitor had taken from her hand.
And in that one instant, she knows. The whole terrible truth just comes crashing down on her. She wasn't abandoned. She was deceived, traded away by the very man who swore to love her forever. And this really highlights the just brutal poetry of the betrayal, right? The exact same heroic act, riding through that wall of fire, was used first to win her love and then, in disguise, to steal it away from her. A pledge of love became the very instrument of that love's destruction. It's just devastating. Her grief, it just turns instantly to this burning, all-consuming rage. She goes straight to her husband, Gunnar, and she lies. She claims Sigurd broke his oath of brotherhood and betrayed them both. And Gunnar, bound by honor and totally manipulated by her fury, he agrees to have Sigurd murdered. But the second Sigurd is killed, something inside Brynhildr just breaks. The fire of her rage is completely extinguished, and all that's left is this profound, icy sorrow. The vengeance she wanted so badly brought her zero peace. All it brought was the final, terrible understanding of what she had truly lost. And in her final moments, she does two things. First, she confesses the whole truth, that Sigurd was innocent of everything she accused him of. And then, unable to live in a world where every single sacred oath has been shattered, she takes her own life. She throws herself onto Sigurd's funeral pyre so they can finally be united in death. So, why? Why does this brutal, ancient story still hit so hard? What's the parable's meaning here? Well, it really comes down to a few core ideas: fate, authority, and the power of a single cursed object. Okay, so it's really important to understand what Brynhildr's sin actually was in the Norse worldview. This isn't like the concept of an inherited flaw you see in some other belief systems. No, her sin was a direct, personal challenge to a god's authority, and that one act of defiance set her wired, her fate, into motion. It's a powerful illustration of the idea that not even a Valkyrie could escape the destiny she had woven for herself. And all through the saga, that ring, Envarnot, it acts like the physical engine of that fate. It is the catalyst. It passes from hand to hand, tangling the threads of destiny and making sure that the curse of ruin and death comes to pass for every single person it touches.
Which kind of leaves us with this final, big question, doesn't it? Was Brynhild's tragedy just unavoidable? You know, written in the stars by a vengeful god? Or was it the direct result of human choices? A chain reaction of broken promises, betrayals, and lies? Was her fate sealed by Odin's decree, or was it sealed by the oaths she and everyone else broke? It's a question that is just as timeless as the myth itself.